Guys, this is going to be a quick Bilgewater overview. With the new set PBE coming out, we've played a couple games now. Not too many, not too little though. It's oftentimes kind of one of those things that you play one trait continuously until you kind of figure it out, get what works, what doesn't. Bilgewater, being that it's a completely new trait, completely new setup, is one that people are really kind of hyping up and playing a lot of. So I've got a good idea of if this trait is really good, bad, the ugly, etc. I think I'm just going to kind of go through each individual unit after I go through the trait. So basically, long story short, if you've seen any of the clips online, cannonballs rain down on people. I think honestly the biggest thing with Bilgewater is it's a physical damage setup. So you get a ton of extra AD with Bilgewater's just built-in, cannonball drops, etc. And oftentimes you don't need to build more AD because of that, which is kind of nice. I think the damage right now is probably a little bit overtuned. You at 5 or 7 generally will have Bilgewater do more than the sum of all of its individual units. It's one of those things we'll kind of see what happens. It's generally a thing that I think you want to try to go for more rather than less. Try to go for the 9, the 7 of the world rather than lesser. Bilgewater does take the Demacia craftable spat slot, so you can get extras relatively easily. And going into it, I do think Earth now is going to be a lot better this set, as it was starting to become more prominent at the end of set 9. I think 9.5 Earth will also be really strong. I don't really see Graves as ever a carry. I think Graves is at best an early game item holder, but with some tweaking, there might be a rogue setup for him. I know Viego had some very minor ability to carry, and so I think Graves might be in that kind of slot. Otherwise, I think he's mostly just a throwaway unit as soon as you hit either a spat or just a better unit upgrade. Alawi, I think, might be one of the Maokai replacements now that Maokai is out of the set. For 9.5, I think Alawi can kind of do the drain tanking that Maokai was so prevalent for, but I haven't really gotten her 3-star to be able to really check. I think the healing of 40% of while they're linked is great, but it's only for 5 seconds, so you have to really be bursting someone down within that time frame. So having someone who has a similar mana or ability timing is probably going to be important. If you don't have that synced up, I think she's not going to do much healing, which then in turn makes her a lot less of a good tank comparatively to like what Maokai was for 1-cost rerolls. The 1-cost though in general are kind of meh. So I'm not sure if you really want to be using them too much more than just for trait bots. Twisted Fate, I think, is an interesting add to multicaster, and I think can potentially be a carry. I really like Twisted Fate for a carry potential. I've done it now, I think 2-3 times. But all the times I did it, so long as I hit Twisted Fate 3 early enough, it was a top 4. I won with it once, but that was a very high roll game. I had Twisted Fate 2 right away. And I don't know if that's going to be a replicatable situation, or if it was just kind of one of those, well, it worked this time and it kind of went away. The biggest thing with him is he throws out cards and then after 2 seconds they explode. So he's pretty good at dealing with clumps, which is kind of nice. And with multicaster, you're able to kind of get that explosion damage to amplify into that larger group pretty quickly. He is a 70 mana unit, so therefore like blue buff doesn't work great on him. Shojin's generally better, but I don't know if either of them are inherently all that phenomenal. I'm not sure exactly BIS for him yet. I think it's something along the lines of Shojin, maybe Jeweled Gauntlet, and then like either a damage amplification item or maybe like an attack speed ramp, something of the sort. We'll kind of see what happens though with him. I think this is probably one of the better carries in all of Bilgewater though for the low cost. I've seen quite a few misfortune carries now going forward. Basically, She just drops an X somewhere on the field. So it's a little bit difficult to get multiple people into it if the positioning is more spread out. So she's kind of a little bit similar to a Twisted Fate, where it's best into a clump rather than a spread. She does do shield reduction. So I think the nice thing with shield reduction is there's still a lot of shielding units in the set. Therefore, having her on the board can be beneficial. She is also one of the strategists now, so that is a positive. Being that Twisted Fate is a multicaster, um, is kind of nice in the sense that you can play Bilgewater with Nautilus, and Not Now has a knockup, which is helpful for the ability to play something like a Talia with your multicasters and still get that Talia procking, which I kind of like then. Every one I've done, it's been Talia, Twisted Fate carry, dual carries. They're both 2 costs, which is helpful. Nautilus being a 3 cost makes it a little bit harder to hit not 3, but you can still go Nautilus 2 plus other frontliners. And I think that's generally like a good spot. So if you're going to try to mess with it, I think Nautilus is the best tank in all of Bilgewater, and I think the most consistent tank. His bonus of 30% armor and magic resistance from all sources means that he's also a great like item holder as well. If you want to have like a Bastion spat or something of the sort, I think he's a great Bastion holder, especially at like 6. He gets a lot of extra value. He's also just good to throw tank items on, period, which makes him a little bit more of an kind of an obvious go-to with Bilgewater in general. Nyla is very strong. I think Nyla right now, if you can have the frontline for her, does really well with the ability to gain a passive gain an active shield, but also have the passive where they kind of jump away as well, or active where they jump away, but the passive doing multiple damage and you stack attack speed. It's like she kind of scales on herself, which is kind of crazy in and of itself. I've seen Ionia, Nyla do really, really well. And then I've also seen something along the lines of like Challenger or so on and so forth do well on her. It's going to be we'll wait and see to see if they tweak any of her values. But I think she's a very good 4 cost. And I think she kind of takes place a little bit of she's kind of the replacement for Deadeye frontline, right? Because Vanquisher is now in. You don't have Urgot anymore. I think she kind of slots into that Urgot role where it's a frontliner that will gain a shield, but also then has good damage in and of herself. So I think keep an eye on Nyla in a lot of Vanquisher comps. Vanquisher right now, not my favorite, but I think that could be a very good option in the future. And then we get to the granddaddy himself, Gangplank. Now, Gangplank right now is bugged, where if you have him on boards, he will just randomly multicast, and casts will be happening to multiple boards all at once, and it's kind of just a mess. So I don't know how truly good Gangplank is right now. All I know is he's either a really good frontliner or a really good backliner, depending on where you put him on the board. If he's in the first 2 rows, he's a good frontliner. If he's in the back 2 rows, he's a good backliner. So depending on your need, he kind of is sufficient in any situation. And I think that's nice. He's also like a frontliner gunner, which you didn't really have last in set 9. And so I think this is kind of going to be an interesting situation where now that Aphelios is a gunner, this gives you some weird combo options to go gunner for. And I think it kind of makes sense to try and utilize him in almost any comp you can. We'll see how much he gets nerfed, buffed, etc. before we're live, but I really, really like the Bilgewater trait in overall. I think at the end of the day, it's one of those things where there's a lot of potential here and something that you can flex into a lot of boards. Whether it be, playing multicasters with your front lines, or you need strategist value with Misfortune giving you anti-shields. Alawi's a Bastion, and Bastions have been up and down throughout all of set 9. Now going into 9-5, they still feel relatively good, relatively bad. Nyla being a good 4-cost damage dealer is, I think, in my opinion, probably one of the reasons why I'll probably fall into Bilgewater more often than not, even if it's just Bilgewater 3. Play something like a Nautilus for Jug. You play Nyla for Vanquisher, and then you throw in like a GP at that point. You know, when you're level 8, you throw in GP because he's good value. He's a good frontliner, or he's a good damage dealer, whatever you need. And so I think that's like kind of where, at the end of the day, this all kind of falls for me. I think Bilgewater is really good. I think it's one of the more interesting options, given that you have a lot of AP damage dealers in the mid in Twisted Fate Misfortune. Graves being a AD damage dealer that semi-scales off AP. I don't know how much you'll use him. Again, I don't really feel like rogues are that strong. They haven't really been that strong to me for a lot of the time. Nyla, though, being a good AD damage dealer with shielding, I think you have a lot of options. So yeah, I think that's kind of it for Bilgewater. There isn't a whole lot else I want to add in there. I think I kind of touched on a lot of the compositions you can key into with this, whether it be multicaster, Bastion, Strat, Vanquisher, even Gunners. The positive with Graves is also a Gunner, so you could technically run 4-Gunner with Graves, Gangplank, and then have, you know, Nautilus for a front line with it. So I think we'll kind of see how things shake out. I like Bilgewater, though. I like the potential it has. I like the concepts in general. I mean, who doesn't love pirates, right? Who doesn't love pirates? Looking at you. Who doesn't love pirates? No, that's kind of it. If you guys have any questions, feel free to drop them below. Otherwise, I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.